Hey guys, what's going on? Absolutely Beast here, bringing you a race on Forza 6. This is using a Camaro, 1969 Camaro SS. This is an all muscle car race, so it's a classic muscle car race. So there's Dodge Challengers in here, Mustangs. I think there's a Plymouth in here too, actually. Or no, it's a Mercury Cougar. Anyway, so yeah. So first of all, I want to say thank you to all you guys. The support the last week. Week and a half has been tremendous, and this has been my best week by far on here, so I'm extremely grateful to you guys for making that possible, and glad to know that more of you are seeing my videos and that you like watching my stuff, so thank you for that. I really appreciate that. So today I'm going to be talking about, you guessed it, Forza 7. But first of all, before I get into that, this is crazy right here. I hope I can make this my thumbnail, because this is ridiculous. I mean, look how just blocked up in here I am with these cars. So, anyway, so yeah, Forza 7, and then some Xbox One X discussion also in here, because there's been a little bit of, first of all, disclaimer: there's nothing really new to report, but I did read another article, and have a few little minor updates. So the 100 gigabyte size that we were talking about yesterday, where they said the game's going to be 100 gigabytes, basically that's going to be the Xbox One X version only, which I think I might have said yesterday, and I kind of thought that. I didn't think they were going to make everybody download the 4K textures and all that, but basically said it's only going to be the One X that's going to have to download 100 gigabytes. Now, I can't imagine, well, that's not true. I guess I could imagine it. So I could imagine that the texture pack would be massive, but I think this game, Forza 6, I think is around 40 gigabytes, if I'm not mistaken. Which is, that's not super huge. That's about on par with the AAA titles of today, I would think. So, yeah, 100 gigabytes is huge. Now, I will say that basically what he was talking about, it was a guy from Microsoft talking about how he said the goal is for them to have the correct assets download on the correct console. So, if applicable, when it recognizes it's a One X, it's going to obviously download the additional patch that'll give you all the additional textures. Now, one of the cool things about that is that already, with just the launch title, which is Forza 7, which, this, in my opinion, one of the biggest launch titles. I don't know that there are any other launch titles, but talk about putting a game out there that's 4K, 60 frames per second. This game is a popular franchise. I would think a lot of the growth in the franchise recently has been in the Forza Horizon era, or Forza Horizon side of things, because that game has started to become popular. That game's only existed for a couple of years, I guess, maybe 4 or 5 years or whatever, but Forza Motorsport is a little more precise. It's a little more about the motorsport side of things, and that's what they were continuing to say. That's what Dan Greenewalt, who's the creative director at Forza, was starting to say. Starting to say that this side of the game, the Horizon side, is about the cool open environments and stuff like that, and great visuals. But for those of you who don't know, Forza Horizon runs at 30 frames per second. So when you come to a game like this, it's the Forza Motorsport. This is the one that was more established and existed first, and this is the one that's the 60 frames per second. And it, from the tests I've seen on Digital Foundry and the stuff like that they've done of the frame rates, this game is rock solid. The only time they were ever able to get this game to drop any frames at all, and we're talking maybe 56 frames per second, was with a full range of 24 cars and a track in the rain. And that's the only time they were able to get it to even dip a little bit in the frame rate. And, to be honest, that rarely happens. And what that's saying is only at the beginning of the race, because that's the only time where all of the cars are on screen at the same time and everything's kind of all going on at once. And that's the only scenario in which they were able to do that. Now, the cool thing was I checked the recommended specs for a PC just, before I was doing this voiceover, and they're only saying you only need a processor that goes 2.67 gigahertz, which I have an i5 laptop that's a cheaper model, and it's a few years old, and it has that speed. Also, it's only saying you need 8 gigs of RAM and a 2 gig video card, which to run a game, I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily like full 4K, but for a massive AAA title that's that smooth and rarely drops any frames, that's a pretty significant. That's a really low number, and that's something that Dan Greenwald had also said, was that by developing this console, developing this game for the next console, the Xbox One X, they've actually made strides in all areas. It actually allowed them to lower their recommended specs for a PC, and allowed them to make the game run a little bit smoother because of the efficiency things that they were doing on the other end, trying to make it as good as they possibly could for the higher end system. It actually trickled down and made everything better. So that's super exciting to hear. But still a little concerned about the whole download thing as far as that's concerned. I'd definitely like to be able to play the game on the launch day. And the interesting thing is, under a normal condition, it probably wouldn't be too bad, because I could start downloading the game and then, just hop into, like, as soon as it says ready to play, I can just hop into whatever race. But I think the problem for me is going to be that at that point, it's going to already have been out for a month or 5 weeks. And so, if I'm downloading a texture pack, it's not just going to be like a, maybe I can just do the first race or something like that. I mean, when it says ready to start, and it's at, 10%, 15%, whatever, who knows if it'll even do that, because it's not even the game, it's just an update for the game, and a lot of times you can't play the game until the update's downloaded. So, concerned about that, kind of have to see, and I actually, for me, the bigger the game itself, the less problem I'll have. So, hopefully the game's like 50 or 60 gigs, because the game itself will be able to do a pre-download before it launches on the 3rd, on October 3rd. I'll be able to do like a pre-download, so I'll have, that ready to go, and then I can just, and then hopefully the update's only like, 30, 40 gigs maybe at the most, which is still, I mean, honestly, that's still going to take me several hours to download. So, I'm a little concerned. I'm not really sure how that's going to go, but I'll have to deal with that when it comes up. So, but I mean, to think about that, they announced the environments. They've announced there's 30 environments, and sort of checked the list, and there really have only been a few of them confirmed. So a bunch that are already returning from Forza 6, which would be like Sebring, and I'm totally losing it. Dubai, which is not returning, but they confirmed that one obviously in the E3 reveal trailer. But a couple tracks that are really cool that are coming back that haven't been in for a couple years. Mugello is coming back, which I believe is in Italy. That's coming back, which is really cool. Suzuka, which is in Japan, that's coming back, which is going to be really cool. That hasn't been in, at least in the 2 games that I played, which would be Forza 5 and 6. And then they're bringing back Maple Valley also, which is a track that I definitely remember racing from Forza Motorsport 2, which is a really fun track for me. Sort of a smaller, everyone. I thought I could get it better. At this point, I'm in 6th place right now, so anything I can do to sort of get up into the group. I mean, I'm really struggling. This car's obviously not very good driving or handling or anything, but I've been slowly working my way up. But yeah, Maple Valley was sort of like a short track. I remember it as being like a sort of a fall type atmosphere. Lots of trees and sort of a gold brown, type of atmosphere going on there. I mean, obviously that could change this time around. I mean, that's, might have just been the way they did it in Forza 2, but it was sort of a smaller track, a little bit more of like a curvy type track. Almost like a Brands Hatch type track, in my opinion. But yeah, so that's going to be there, which is pretty cool. And obviously we'll have the typical variations like we do in this game, which are, variations of, alternates and reverse and stuff like that. So we'll have that kind of stuff going on. Yeah, I mean, I could see why it's going to be so big though, because with over 700 cars, 700 plus cars, that is so many cars, and that's a lot of data. A lot of data. For me personally, I think 750 is too much. It's easy to go overboard with something, I feel like. I feel like that gives it tremendous variety, and I also feel like, that's them kind of flexing their muscles a little bit, saying, look what we can do. Look at all this power we can have that we in our engine is so efficient and so streamlined. We can put all this content in the game and it'll still run smoothly. Minor hiccup in the transition right there. I lost about 2 seconds worth of video, unfortunately, but I mean, that was not too bad. But so yeah, it's going to be very interesting. That's kind of why I've been doing all these showcase events. I'm trying to drive a different car every day, is because I never really experienced any of these other cars in this game. So I've probably only experienced a couple dozen cars at the most of driving them, and so for me, it's fun to do these showcase events. I am trying to get all the achievements and stuff too, so there's that. But it's fun to experience all these different types of cars and just drive all these different ones. And the races are all proportionately long, so it's not like you have to come in and race a Camaro for like 15 minutes. That would be not fun. But yeah, so the other thing would be about the Xbox One X. So just some stuff we already know about that. But one of the things I'm most excited for is the game capture is getting an upgrade to 4K 60 frames per second, which is epic. That means I'll be able to bring you guys the content in 4K and 60 frames. No word yet on whether it supports HDR. I would say probably not, because I'm not even sure that like YouTube supports HDR. I'm not even sure there's any sort of video hosting service that you could use that would support HDR. I'm assuming if you watched it like from console to console, like if you were on a 1X and you watched like an upload, which is the studio that we have on here. If you watch the upload studio or something like that, or you watch the game clip, I mean, I would assume, since it's just going console to console, you'd probably be able to see the HDR, but I'm not really 100% sure on that. But they have confirmed it's a 4K 60 frames per second upgrade, which is going to be epic. Like I said, that means I'll be able to bring you guys this content in 4K. For those of you who have 4K, it'd be a great showcase. For those of you who don't, it doesn't really matter. It won't stream it in the 4K anyway. So right here at the end of the race, I thought I could catch these guys, but I didn't. So I ended up rewinding this several times. I was going to rewind back to the corner, and I actually was planning on taking out those cars, if I'm being honest. But there's a weird thing that happens in this game where if you rewind enough, like you'll see here in a second, like right here, it actually won't let me rewind. And so I was like, wow, that sucks. So I tried to do that, but there's this strange phenomenon where if you rewind a couple times, sometimes the cars just do that. Like those cars just like stopped in the middle of the road for whatever reason. To let me get by, which is cool because I wouldn't have passed the race otherwise. So anyway, like I said, thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate it. It's been great this last week. I sincerely appreciate it. So make sure you guys check back soon. I'll be updating as much as I can. And thank you guys. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything. I really appreciate it. Thanks.